Welcome to Ducal Drinks with your host, Bill Norn. It's me. I have chosen to drink a longboard island lager from Kuna Brewing. I think I've had it, and I think I like it. Usually I like lagers. So this first episode is going to be about titles, more specifically titles in Amtgard, but you never know where the topic will drift, so it might cover other games as well. For our guest, this inaugural episode, we have Darius. Can Darius wave? And then we have Torg and Guin. A little bit about my history. I've been playing the game for 21 years. I have 3 titles, a Lord, a Baronet, and 4 titles, sorry, a Duke and an Archduke. And so I have some experience with titles. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell a little bit about your backstory, a few sentences. We'll start with Torg.
Okay. I'm Torg from Silver Moon and Blackspire, and I have 2 titles, a Lord and a Baron. I've been playing for about 10 years now, almost going on 11 before the outbreak, but I play regularly. I'm level 6 in every class. Like, my attendance was great before this all went down, so that's about it.
Gwen?
Hey, I'm Gwyn, playing out of Inland Ocean in the Northern Lights. I have 3 titles, going in order of precedence: Defender, Lady, and Baroness. I've been playing for 13 years.
Oh, Darius?
Yeah.
I'm Darius. I've been playing this game since 1997, so however many years that is. I have 3 noble titles. I am a Lord, a Marquis, and a Duke. And just to go follow Archduke's Belnorn's lead, I'm drinking a homemade semi-sweet mead.
Gwen, are you drinking anything? Or did you not go to the store?
Yeah. No, I did. I have a Mike's Harder strawberry pineapple lemonade.
Fancy.
Highly suggest.
Super big can.
I am drinking a purified water from 7-Eleven.
Very healthy.
Fantastic.
Go ahead.
Well, looks like in the chat they're saying that people are kind of quiet. So maybe Belnorn, if you could try to increase your volume on everybody. I don't know.
It's mostly Torg, I think.
Yeah.
Hello?
Say something again, Torg.
Hello?
Is that better, people? Okay. Awesome. So we're gonna kick the chat off with a pretty simple question. What title does everyone have, which we already covered? But what's your favorite and why? I'll go first. I'm going to cheat a little bit and say 2 titles. Lord, I got after about less than a year in the game, and I have a big memory of it, and I feel that I was proud at the time. And so it sticks out there. My Baronet, I remember it, but not as well. But my Archduke, I think it connected more emotionally with me because it's kind of a combination of everything I've done over, I guess, when I got it 20 years. And the words by Kim Jim that he wrote for the announcement at court were very well thought out and really made me think about my history in the game and all the things that I've done. And it made me feel like I was more emotionally connected with that award than I was in my previous awards. So, yeah. Carl? Torg?
My Lord title, definitely. When I got my Lord title, I wasn't in any Kingdom office, and so it just caught me completely off guard. And honestly, I just like the way how it sounds better. I think everyone just I don't know. If you think of all the the characters in like fantasy and like media and stuff, they always have Lord as their title, like Lord Vader, you know, and just like everyone calls him a Lord. And it's just, I don't know, it just sounds so cool, and it caught me so off guard that like I got a little emotional, and I think I got a little, I don't know, onion juice in my eyes when it happened. But like, yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, Gwen, what was your most memorable title?
Well, my most recent one was my Defender title, and I definitely wasn't expecting that one, so that was really cool. I feel like Defender, well, in the last few years, it's been given out pretty frequently, but before that, it really wasn't. So, um, I felt like there was a pretty high bar for that one, and I wasn't expecting it. But my favorite by far was probably my Baroness title. Um, Darius made the physical award, but on it says like Baroness WGW. Um, but when I was being given the award, Stashris was the prince at the time, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Gwen's so great, blah blah blah. Nobody's ever seen her be mad before." And like it was just really funny because everybody starts like laughing because I mean like he's in Canada, so he doesn't know, but it's like I'm very much mad at things all the time because I'm very passionate about the game, and so it was really funny, but that's my favorite one. It's a beautiful award. I didn't expect it at all, and I had put in a lot of work during that time because I mean people thought I was like the prince of Radiant Outlands when it was Garth because like I was just like helping out so much and very vocal on the board. So it was funny. That one's the most memorable.
Darius, what about you?
But I remember it. It's a toss up between my Duke and my Marquis, honestly. My Marquis came as a surprise. In the Northern Lights, you're required to have held 3 Kingdom offices in order to earn your Marquis title. And though I had realized I had held those offices, I didn't realize that I was going to get my Marquis title. And the award looks great. It was made by Sir Kelric. But I believe my Duke title is my favorite, not simply because it's the highest one I've earned, but because I have not met anyone within my kingdom who says I didn't deserve to earn it. And that says a lot. Like, I'm not necessarily a person who is all about the accolades, but having the popular backing of that kind on a title, let alone a high level award, just feels good. Gives you those warm fuzzies.
There was a question. What does Marquis mean? I think he's. It's what 3 offices did you have to hold in the Northern Lights?
In the Northern Lights, our Marquis title is awarded to an individual who's held monarch, prime minister, and regent of the kingdom.
Hopefully that answers your question.
And it's a low level French title if you need like the actual.
Oh yeah. So we've talked about the like the idea, like a title that has stuck out to each one of us for our own personal things. But what is the importance of titles in the game, but also to yourself? So kind of a 2-sided question. It might not be the same answer.
Yeah, titles in the game, I feel, they're really for those veteran players that, like, I don't know. There's a lot of burnout in this game, and a lot of people give their all, and having recognition every once in a while for all the time, effort, money, sweat, and tears you put inside this to make it so everyone else is having a good time. Be that working in the kitchens or just simply picking up after game and taking people's credits, doing all the things that need to be done to make it so our game can happen functionally, can kind of wear a person down. And I think like nobility titles, it's just a little step above just like the ladder awards. Like a ladder awards are a very defined metric, whereas with noble titles, it's a little bit more vague. But I feel that it's just that little thing that makes it so like even in role play you're kind of acknowledged for the things that you've done. Like most of the people at my park respect my title and call me Lord Torg when they address me, and it just makes me feel like, you know, all those years of doing something, it's just like a little thank you every time they say my name. And it's very encouraging. It's uplifting to be acknowledged by the people, so that you're supported, so that you can support them. Um, so that's my personal experience with nobility.
Darius, do you have our perspective?
Lord Torg said. Yes. It's, to me, I put a lot of weight in titles, especially as you gain the higher ones. I know quite a few Grand Duchesses and Grand Dukes that I respect, not just because they're Grand Dukes and Grand Duchesses, but because they've done the work required to not only qualify for that title in their respective kingdoms, but to actually be dubbed that title. As I know a lot of archdukes, or dukes like myself who put in the work to get that recognition. And it's not necessarily, they're all given at kingdom level. They're not really arbitrary. There tends to be structured reasons, or at least equivalent reasons, for earning them. And like Torg said, there is a bit of not respect, but it's the gift that keeps on giving. For my Duke title, I go by Hertogi, which is a Scandinavian equivalent-ish. And anyone who goes through the effort of pronouncing that before they say my name, high five. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I could probably ramble for a while because I've been drinking for about an hour, but I'll pass it on to Baroness Guin.
So the question was, what do titles bring to the game, and what was the other part? Sorry.
What does it mean to you? What do they mean to you personally?
So I definitely feel like that titles bring in kind of like that role play aspect to the game. Because obviously we get to choose our names, we get to choose our heraldry, all of that stuff, but you don't get a title until you earn it. And so for me, I think that also adds in so many cool functions you can add into the game at a park level. Like you could do a game where if you have a title, you earn certain number, like certain plots of land, and like you can like have your fellow players like be your serfs or whatever, you know. So I feel like it adds a lot of role play to the game. And then also for me, titles are kind of like the symbolism of respect, and kind of like a thank you from your general populace as to the things that you've done. But I definitely feel like, me personally, I don't think they should ever replace like a ladder award, because if you're serving with excellence, you've probably already gone above and beyond of what an award might qualify you for. Because I know that there's definitely some people where they've gotten titles rather than awards, and now they're like, hey, I have all these huge titles, but like one rose or whatever, and that kind of sucks. So I think that they should almost be kind of like a shared combination of things rather than a replacement.
All right.
But yeah.
It's all good points. So, So I'm gonna jump into like the real deep in meta, because with Brynjar had brought up about the excellence for titles. So bringing that to bear with the title versus crown awards discussion. I know Darius has a lot to talk about this, but so what are the difference between titles and crowns? And for filling those out, does it require excellence in the positions that require them as a requirement?
I'm sure if. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure if you need to serve with extreme excellence for like your first level crown. Like, I think serving as like a champion, and as long as you meet all the rules of being a champion at a local level, should qualify someone for their first crown, because they are at least stepping up and putting themselves out there. And not everyone in the populace can claim to do that. Like, I mean, they put themselves out on a limb and they tried, and as long as they didn't fail at the job, then I feel like a first level crown should be acceptable for doing that. Um, it gets more complicated as the higher up you go on crown awards, I feel, because then it becomes just like noble titles, and that only the kingdom can hand them out. And that kind of convolutes it a little bit when the kingdom has the only say on both the awards. Um, but it is a ladder thing, and it's about progress and progression. And I feel like at the low levels of handing out crowns, it's more about encouraging the person to continue doing that and sort of nurturing that seed of putting yourself out there and being an example to people in a leadership position, as opposed to awarding them for excellence in said leadership position like a noble title would.
Well, then I got a follow-up question for you. So, would the lower titles mean that you have to excel not as much in them to get them compared to the higher level titles when you were talking about titles? Or should they have the same bar of excellence at the lower level that they do at the higher level? It's just the different positions that you're in.
I feel like that's a bit of a tricky question, because what is excellence inside an office is different depending on the office that you're in. And titles are associated a lot with offices that you serve in. So, like, a champion's job is going to be different than the prime minister's job. And to say that there's a same bar of excellence, it gets a little vague because the positions have different expectations. But I do feel that there needs to be a high standard that needs to be met. And I kind of went on a tangent there. What was the original question again?
No, you're on topic.
Okay, cool.
That water's kicking in.
Oh, yeah, it's kicking in hard. No, I just got off work. That's why I'm just brain dead. Don't do work, kids. Yeah. You need to just take it on a case-by-case basis with the award, like the titles, but the awards are measured out in a metric, and there should be guidelines coming soon to the rulebook as to how to hand those out. I'm not sure if they handed out those guidelines in the Snowy edition. I haven't checked. But we should be expecting to see like at least examples of what should be expected for those roles, and I think most people already have a pretty, at least basic understanding of what a ladder award for office should look like.
So I just want to make a note that I went and looked at the order of precedence and all of that funness for the Northern Lights. So for our titles, they actually don't say serve with excellence. They just say serve. So I would say for the Northern Lights, a big distinction right now should be a crown is serving with excellence versus titles are just serving. So
Would that put a less importance on titles then, because you don't have to do as good of a job?
I feel like you have to at least hit all of the minimum requirements in order to get that title. So if you're doing a shit show of a job, you probably shouldn't be getting the title. You should be doing the bare minimum. So for like the Northern Lights, you need to have your schedules printed out. If you're the monarch, you need to be having your all things, doing your financial reports, if you're prime minister, getting your credits entered every 2 weeks. So if you're not doing the standard of what your job is set to be by the corpora, you probably shouldn't be getting the title. Because for me, serving with excellence is like going above and beyond that. So doing all the extra stuff that's not required of you.
Right, and everyone has their own definition of what excellence is. Pardon me while I look up something else in Arcapora.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Another thing though is it's so interesting how these things are tied together, because when the crown was made into an award very recently, one of the suggested ways that kingdoms could go about retroactively handing out crowns, if that was a path they wanted to take, was to look at the noble titles of people. And so even at like the Circle of Monarchs level, they acknowledge that there is a certain degree of overlap between these two things.
No, and to follow up on what Gwyn had said, under the monarch position, which is where I got the excellence from, it states that may become eligible to receive the title of Duke or Duchess after his or her term is over for the excellence in office. That's where I got the excellence from. You're right, it's not in the actual definition of the title, it's in the actual office definition.
Oh,
But
okay.
either way, back on the original question, I think crowns should be a lot easier to earn than titles. I think titles should have that excellence attached to them. And that's, I mean, I'm a crown knight who is not a master crown, because I didn't believe that I had earned that masterhood. Simply because if you add up all of the offices I've held, I qualified in the old manner, but not by orders of the crown.
Right.
And people think that I'm wrong about that, but it was my personal decision to give back that award. I intend to earn it, but not today. I believe there to be a very vast difference, especially in the Northern Lights, because like Marquis, there are different requirements. Marquis requires you to hold 3 different offices. Grand Duke requires you to be king twice, whereas you might get your master crown for 1 term as king after you've done Baron and Duke and Champion and whatnot. And I don't believe it needs to be in that kind of progressional order that most people do it, where they run for PM and Champion, and then they run for Regent, and then they run for King. I was king before I was Regent or PM of my kingdom. Prior to that, I had been Baron and other barony shire level offices, but I believe that to an extent at kingdom level it becomes a lot more complicated. The job becomes in a vacuum. The job is more difficult to be a king than it is baron. You could have a problem barony and have a really horrible reign as baron, whereas you could be king during the summer season of nothing's happening and everything is hunky dory for your entire 6 months. But it does get more difficult as you gain levels in that ladder. But I believe that the excellence should be tied to titles.
So you're all bring your.
It should be globally. All of the requirements for titles should be global.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that was like something like straight across the board. I get the understanding that like we should have this ability to like kind of flow and be our own thing, but I feel like if I go across the country and I'm like, haha, I'm a Grand Duke, and they're like, well, you haven't done all this stuff, then I don't know. Like, I feel like it should be the same.
You're a Grand Duke in that kingdom, but here, yeah.
Right, but here you actually are like a baronet or whatever, like, I don't know.
Right.
Weird.
It would be nice to have titles standardized a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Yawbrunyer said, would the panel agree that excellence is at a minimum requirement for the requirements? There's a minimum requirement for the requirements, yeah. I would agree with that. What about you, Darius?
A minimum requirement? I believe it could be a requirement, but I don't know that serving an excellence should be the minimum. I know that I've known plenty of people who have served as Baron of a barony or Duke as a duchy and done as best they could in a situation, and definitely deserved the title for that. Did they serve with excellence? Probably not from a satellite perspective. But so I mean, I would say, assuming where Jarl Brynjar is coming from, yes, minimum requirement, but I think there needs to be a little play.
That becomes kind of interesting when you say that a subjective term becomes the minimum requirement.
Right.
And that it's a little convoluted when that happens. I don't feel like there's because like the monarchy changes almost every reign or every other reign, and so the subjective term of excellence becomes foggy. Like it's not really, it can't be really dry cut because no one thinks the same.
I'd agree.
That's true.
To the extent where you'd want a definition of excellence.
Yeah, I think you should be looking into like
excellence should be a category, and the minimum requirements for excellence should be listed.
Right.
That would be good.
I even suggest like doing like a panel of like populace. So like if you're thinking about giving them a title because of the work they've done at their land, like do a panel with their people and be like, hey, like how well do you think they actually did? Because like maybe from an outside perspective they did fantastic, but the people inside the land are like, oh my god, no, this whole thing was terrible, you know, like because they're the people who like know what's going on all the time. So I don't know. That's my opinion. If the people who they're directly working with were like terribly unhappy the whole time, they probably didn't serve with excellence, even if it looked like they did from the outside.
I can see that.
Yeah.
At the same time, you'll run into people who will just say that they had a horrible time, where that person actually did serve with gleaming excellence.
That's why I said a panel. You asked like 20, you asked like everybody.
What if you don't have 20 people?
Okay, if there's like 6 people in the land, you ask all of them. I don't know.
But no, it's the way that a lot of kingdoms. Well, maybe I don't say a lot. I can't speak for more than like 3 kingdoms from personal knowledge. They handle paragons. Is you ask existing paragons, is Darius good enough of a whatever? Do you think we should make him a paragon? Is Belnord good enough of an archduke that we should think about making him a grand duke? He's got the blah blah blahs. Having that kind of panel, I could see, but at the same time, you end up getting into the Circle of Knights problem.
Yeah. I don't know. I also like the idea of asking the person directly, like, hey, like, how do you feel your reign? Yeah, like what?
How do you think you did?
Yeah, how do you think you did? Like, what were your strengths? What were your weaknesses? If you're gonna do this again, what would you do better? And like really like asking them and seeing them like what they think they did was good enough and what they didn't think, because that could tell a lot about the person and how their reign went, and then comparing those notes that they gave you to what other people are saying about them, because like maybe the stuff that they thought was major really wasn't,
or no one noticed.
Right.
Yeah.
So talking about the idea of excellence, specifically with titles, we're going to go back to titles, not just crowns anymore. But what do you think set yourself apart? This is a question by some insane wizard. So what do you think set yourself apart? What do you think you brought to the game that made people want to give you the titles that you've earned?
Damn.
Yep.
You would have to ask the people.
I was gonna say, I'll just talk about myself. It's fine. Well, when I got my defender title, I feel like I saw a problem and I fixed it. So, sorry, my rabbit's being a jerk right now. Give me 1 sec.
No, Torg?
Rabbits.
Well, I have been serving in various offices all over my holding for a long time, and I dabbled in Kingdom, but didn't really excel there. But I think the thing was that I was just sort of always there. Like, when people would come to Silvermoon, they'd be like, oh, go talk to Torg, even if I wasn't in office. I had like so many people direct people to me because they knew I was reliable. They knew that like I love this game. I love talking to new players. I loved just the community, and I was just a team player. Um, I when I got my Lord title, like I said before, it was a total shock. I wasn't in holding level office. I don't think I definitely wasn't in Kingdom office, and it hit me from left field, and I was so ecstatic. Like, oh geez, like it was great. But the important thing is that you don't have to be the best person at something. That's what the ladder awards are for. The important thing is that you be there. You put your time in. You put your effort in. Um, you swallow your anger. You swallow your pride, and basically you just be like, hey man, let's play a game. We're all here to play a game, and just and if you love something that much and you put that much time into it, people are going to take notice, and people will um I don't know, they almost feed off of it, really. Like, your positivity begins making everyone else positive, and honestly, that's the only advice I can really give. Is just love the game, and in time, I mean, it's not going to happen. It took me 7 years to get my first title. um People will love you back, like, and having your own park grow because of your actions is its own reward.
With finding a part of our organization that you do love. We're so multifaceted in Amtgard that there is definitely something for everybody. And I know it's off topic for titles, because titles tend to be leadership in office. But things like the Lord titles and anything up to, I would say, Baronet or Baron, should be someone's attitude just towards an individual facet of our game should be definitely considered.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, sorry, before I went off screen. So I was saying, like, when I got my defender title, like, one of the big things that I did as Kingdom Champion was I saw a problem and worked to fix it. So, the Northern Lights is still a fairly newer kingdom, but I mean, we're going on, I think this winter will be Reign 17 or something like that. And I was stepping in as champion, like, assuming that I would have stuff to use to run kingdom level events. And there was nothing. There wasn't cones, there wasn't rope, there wasn't Nerf balls, like, like, literally nothing to run a battle game with. And I'm sorry, but my entire job is to run a kingdom level battle game, but you want me to do it with nothing? Like, for half the reign, I was just, like, relying on other people to bring stuff, and that's a huge problem. And I was thinking, I was like, what is happening here? Like, how has this never been solved before? So finding a problem and then coming up with a solution, I feel like, is a big part of, like, what separated myself from other people to get that title, because there's this weird scenario happening where we're just relying on other people to kind of help me do my job, which at a kingdom level I don't think should be a thing. Like, I should just know how to do it and have this equipment to do it. So
That is Lord Torg. Lord Torg?
Baron.
Baron Torg. You said you liked Lord better, so I'm going to use that.
True. Call me Dreadlord. I love that the most.
Dreadlord. Yeah, I just get tired of trying to be Hertogi Darius, so I just end up going as Duke.
Dreadlord, I had a lot of success with that. More people call me Dreadlord than
Well,
Lord or Baron.
It's got flavor.
No, it's fun.
What was the question?
Let me just go back up to get the exact wording here. A second. I passed it. Okay, what set you apart from other people, and like, what do you think brought to the game that made people want you to have those titles?
My neutrality, if I'm going to be honest, like, humbly honest. I think that I came into the office of Monarch I followed Sir Sam, who was a strong monarch, and I had a few situations that required not a gentle touch, but they required a moderator, and I came into those situations unbiased, in my opinion. I listened to both sides, and I passed judgment, and brought a lot of logic into emotional conversations that were occurring during my reign. And there weren't any major problems during my reign that I had to really, really like filter. We had a couple things happen at the Hollow between some players that I was thankfully I lived fairly close to the Hollow and was able to just go there, pull them aside, and be like, "What are we doing? Why are we doing this?" And there were a few things kingdom wide that needed decisions to be made. But I believe that my ability to be unbiased in a decision where I might have my own personal opinions on it was what solidified the ducal title for me, for sure. The titles before that, like my lord title, was simply because I was a master peasant without any kind of noble titles, and Sir Show decided to change that.
I guess for me is for my higher level titles, Duke and Archduke, I was somewhat of an innovator, and I started some trends. Like when I was monarch, I was adamant about putting the schedule out early. I was adamant about having like every second weekend be the day for our KLEs, so being consistent within my own reign, but also trying new things. Like when I was regent, like I was one of the, well, might not have been the first, but I was one of the first to take on getting completely rid of Ithras and just doing contests throughout the reign. So it was a new way for us to go. So I think I got my high level titles for being innovative. My lower level titles are definitely for being like gung ho, on the spot, kind of like proactive, and just being like the image for our holding. And that's what got me my lower level titles. And the higher level titles are just working on a whole completely different level. All right, so Brinier asks, what are your thoughts for people who help the kingdom run but do it from the shadows? How do we recognize them as far as titles? So I'm going to actually roll it into another question that I wanted to bring up, which was, what do you think about titles being given out for non-office specific things? So, for example, the people working in the background, and do you think this applies to lower level titles and not higher level titles, or do you think it applies to both level titles?
I guess I want clarification on like what we mean by working in the background, because like are we talking about like a board of directors? Are we talking about like literally people just like pretending to be monarch and just like not being the monarch? They're like helping the monarch. Like what kind of behind the backgrounds are we talking about? That's what I want to know.
Well, I don't think.
Very different opinions.
Well, I guess that would be up to the interpretation of each one of you. What would constitute what would be given a title, what would not be given a title. Like for me, I don't think BOD work should be included. But what do you guys think? Okay, he clarified. Your Albert clarified volunteers who help in the kitchen, gate, etc. So volunteer work, stuff like that.
Okay.
Nope. Yeah.
I mean, I know in the Northern Lights, the monarch has the right to create titles as well. So, for example, Dog Boy has the ambassador title for literally being the prince and helping building the Northern Lights and bringing it to a kingdom. Should he have qualified for a different title? Probably, but I think we could also be creative and go away from the things that we have listed in our books, right? So you can go away from corpora titles and make something special for those people. Also, I know in Northern Lights, like lower level titles, like I think like Master, Mistress, and Lord, Esquire, all of those are kind of lower end that can be kind of subjective towards the monarch's decision. So if that person is in the kitchen every single camp out, and maybe they've gotten a higher order rose, but they're still doing it and they're still doing it, like, I don't know, give them a lord title. Like, they're killing it, they're serving Amtgard, like, why not?
I actually have a different opinion. For if I'm put in the position to give out a title, I'll generally stick with the requirements. So I'm more along the lines of the hard edge. Like, you should have done these offices and well, otherwise, just to keep the titles like congruent over the years. I would consider some lower level titles like Baron Torg, for example, got in his lower title for service and just his years of dedication. But I'm a little hardline, but not inflexible.
Right, like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely talking lower end. Like, I would never be like, haha, here's your Duke title for serving in the kitchen. Like, no, sorry,
Yeah,
not getting that.
I would agree with who I think is Jericho in the chat. I could be wrong, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong. We have ladder awards, and we have knighthoods at the end of those ladder awards for those people who serve without this, that, and the other thing. But at the same time, Baronet, Master, Lord, those titles, I don't think any of them really have. I mean, Baronet has, but below that, they're not attaboys, because I feel like attaboy is dismissive. But they're a reward for services rendered that are outside of, say, your Smith or your Rose or your Lions, and can do a lot, in my opinion, as far as where I was when I came back to this game. They can do a lot to kind of generate interest in returning, or continuing to do the things we've been doing. But no, I agree with Gwyn that I don't like Baron, Count, Duke. You got to get out of the shadows for those.
Right,
They're office-based titles.
right, and I guess
Um,
Oh, go ahead, Torg.
Sorry. For me, it's a little complicated because I feel like I met the prerequisites to get Baron. Don't get me wrong. I've served so many times in various offices and was a head of a barony when it turned into a dukedom. But I feel like a lot of the reason why I got both of those titles was because of the work I put in both in and out of office. I feel like um, the it's hard to come up with like the right words for this, but like I definitely met the qualifications. But I feel like the majority of the reason why I got the noble titles that I got was because of the work I did outside of office as opposed to within. Because my reigns weren't what I would consider excellent by my own standards. And so reflecting on that, um, I feel that people saw me in the public eye, and to go back to that, like in the shadows thing, I was in the public eye, and I did do a lot for our park and whatnot, but I feel like a lot of it had to do outside of office, and I got a Baron for that, which was listed by someone else in this chat as one of the higher titles. Um, but then like there's also a friend of mine in the side of our park who does serve in the kitchen every single event. He spends his entire time at campouts, doing all these things, and he has his master title now. So, and also I think he has his lord now too.
Fritz?
Yep, Fritz, love that guy to death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, like it's a bit of a toss up for me. I could see it either way. I don't think that people ever get their Duke for serving, outside of office, but like the possibility of it is there, I guess. Like the way how our culture works, like when somebody fills in a requirement and they still are a positive influence in the game, then it tends to rise the question, oh, well, why doesn't this person have that award? Even though their run in office wasn't spectacular. Yeah, they hit all the points, but like it wasn't exceptional.
Since then, they've proven that they can do all of that and beyond.
Yeah, and so like it's almost like there's a sort of like checkbox that gets marked, and then it's like, oh, and they serve in excellence after they were in office, so they did the office, they did the excellence, give them their title. And
See that?
it's a bit convoluted for me.
Most of the things in our game, especially when you're crossing kingdoms, become very
Mhm.
convoluted.
Right. Well, and
But
I mean,
I agree with you. Sorry, go ahead, Gwen.
oh, I was gonna say, I mean, like, I feel like everything is very subjective, and I feel like we also have to remember that people have things going on in their real lives. So if somebody is generally always like 110%, like always serving with excellence, always like doing things outside of office and just killing it, smashing it, doing things and like blowing people's minds, and like the one time they run for office and they're like just barely below that standard, like because there's something going on in their life and we're like not awarding them because they had that one like oops award or oops reign where like they just like miss out on a few pointers, like I feel like that's kind of shitty, you know, like if they're always constantly doing good work and just this one time they have a slight slip up, like this we're not going for a promotion at a job, you guys, like we're not getting paid, like being in office is 100% volunteer work, and like we have real lives. So sometimes that's gonna affect our game life, and I feel like we still have to represent people and show them that we appreciate them. Like if they're doing a absolute shit show of a job, like yeah, 100%, like you guys need to realize out there who are listening, like if you're in an office and you suddenly realize it's way too much because stuff's going on, like please, it's okay to be like, hey, I need to step down. But if you're still doing the job, just not to the full potential that you want to, like, that's okay. But if you can't do the job, please leave. You know, but I feel like we should still be awarding people who may not be doing everything all the time at that exact time. But if they're doing everything all the other times, like, you know, I don't know. Like, you can tell when
Agree.
people are always doing the work.
I agree with Bose, who says I think stepping out is admirable. Knowing your
Mhm.
limits and knowing that
Yeah.
that being in office is not helping you out
Yeah.
and not helping the game out, like you're not fulfilling what you believe to be whatever. I think it's very admirable. It's
Yeah.
a respectable thing to see in a person, for someone to come forward to a group of their peers and say, "I can't do this right now. I've got to be over there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll be back."
Yeah, like, I don't know how many times I've seen it in the Northern Lights right now, where it's like people are in kingdom level office and they're like, I won't step away because like I don't know who's gonna take over or like whatever, and they just can't do the job. And I'm like, you guys, like you have to, like, you're not doing the job. Let somebody else please do it so you can take care of yourself. Like, very important. And
Yeah,
nobody
no,
is
and
gonna shame you for that. And if they do, shame on them. Like, let's get rid of those people because obviously they don't know what they're talking about.
I've definitely seen people
Another,
let mundane things slide in order to fulfill Amtgard responsibilities.
Mm-mm.
definitely another thing too is people in office need to learn how to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
The D
Oh God,
word.
yes.
It is something that it is the gospel truth, and like I had to learn that the
Praise.
hard way. Um, you are one human being trying to shepherd 200 plus people. It's not going to happen unless you have a couple people that you can trust to do a good job and reflect good on you as well as themselves, um, to help you handle whatever situation you're in. If you're champion,
Yes.
that means getting reads. If your PM, that means, talking to the other PMs. If it's regent, then you need to talk to your local crafters. If it's king, you need to be on board with everybody else inside office. You just have to understand that being in office requires communication and it requires delegation. And
100%.
Being open to feedback.
yeah, it's I do not like giving up any sort of like responsibility. I hate it.
Me either, man.
And it's
Big
so
on
hard.
putting my name on other people's work, so I don't know what you guys' problem. Like,
Yeah, it's so hard to just let go and just like put that faith in other people. But I am blessed with many friends that have helped me by bonking me on the head and saying, "Dude, you can't do that. You're already booked. Like, just hand it to me. I'll take care of it." And some days I just need someone to hit me in the head with a stick and tell me, "Hey, dude, it's too much."
Well, and then
or
like
just
even oh, sorry.
go ahead, Gwen. You go.
Oh, I was gonna say like at land level too, like 100% please still delegate at land level. Like you can be monarch of your land and then like hire on somebody else to be your herald who makes all of your posts online for you if you want. Like you don't have to do it by yourself. You really don't. Like rely on other people. It's okay. Like communicate, delegate, delegate. It's so much easier.
And what I was gonna say was, as an older, air quotes, looking over at Belnorn, member of like this organization, I won't throw Boone out under the bus. There are so many new players with so much love and energy for this game. Just shake them and set them free, and just be amazed at some of the things, some of the ideas, and some of the programs they set up, and some of the quests they write. Don't be afraid to be like, you child that doesn't really play the game much but never stops talking about all the cool things they want to do them. Here you go. Go. There's been so many. They're now not new members of the Northern Lights, but there's been so many people who I saw as new members who were just sitting back vibrating because they had so much energy and so much intent, and now to see them in their middle age Amtgard years being like, I'm getting shit done. It's phenomenal. It's awesome, and we need to harness that power. Just because I've been king before, just because I'm a duke, just because I'm a knight, does not mean I know everything, and I need to listen to those people because they're the
No,
future of our organization.
yeah, you don't know everything. It's fine.
We know you don't know anything.
Good, and so does everybody in the chat.
Another thing, though, to loop back to where that whole tangent went, if you do delegate and it is not working still, that is when you need to have a serious conversation with yourself about stepping down. Delegate first. If that doesn't work, it is completely honorable to step down and take the interest of the game apart, because if you are not on your best, people will notice and the game will reflect that. So, and if you're in office, it should be because you want what's best for the game, and sometimes that's just letting it go for a little bit.
Yeah, it should never be about you and like I'm gonna run for office because like I want this or I need to do this. It's like I don't know. For me, it's always like I see a problem, I need to fix it, but then like I'm gonna also work with these people to fix it, not like, ooh, I want this award next. You know, like you've
It's
got to
about the
delegate.
game, not the end
Yeah,
game.
yeah. You got to make the game good because this is in the long run. Like if people aren't enjoying the game, guess what? There will be no game tomorrow. So
Yeah.
So, do you feel the organization does a good job at quantifying accomplishments? This is a question by Brynjar.
Brynjar just needs to leave the chat. He's got
Yeah,
too many questions.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily like, does the game do a good job? I think it's, do the people who are currently in office do a good job, right? So, because the game is very large, right? Because if we just hit like what 22 kingdoms, 21 kingdoms, and so it's each kingdom has their own standards. Some of them are doing really well. Brynjar, if you want to do a Google Docs that I've been working on, but I went through and found out how many kingdoms have a certain number of flame knights and rose smith, whatever, and there's definitely some kingdoms that are just they have an amazingly crazy amount of certain number of whatever masters in this field, and then a really low number in another field. So again, it's going to be education. Are we teaching our newer players what an award currently means and how it should be awarded, or are we teaching what it meant 10 years ago? Are we encouraging those awards? Are we ensuring that people are actually getting recognized and explaining why they should be recognized? I'd say that Amtgard does do a very good job, but I think that certain monarchs slip, and I think certain monarchs don't seek the correct education for it. So, but overall, I would say we do a very good job, Amtgard, at a national level.
I feel that it's so. I'm gonna go back to using Fritz as an example because I fucking love this guy. But when I first joined the game, Fritz had already been playing for I don't know how long. The guy's fantastic, and he has always been him. He's always been serving in kitchens. He's always been helping. He's always been working on green crew. He just volunteers for absolutely everything. And I had assumed this guy was when I heard about the award system, that he was at least a 6th level rose or something. And I went and checked his orc because when you're a newbie, you orc stalk everybody. And
you'd orc stalk everyone ever, always.
Keeps me humble for sure.
And I found that he only had 2 roses, and so that just really startled me as a new player. And it wasn't until probably 4, maybe 5 years ago that his awards really started coming in, and that positivity that he put in really was reciprocated. And words. And I think that the game has gotten better is basically where I'm coming from. I think that there was definitely a dry spell with awards when I first started playing, both at a local level and at a kingdom level. It just wasn't something that was really in the mindset of the game, and I think that over time we have really become more aware of awards in general, because now Fritz has his master and lord title, and I honestly think he deserves both. I think he deserves more, honestly. He's been serving for so long, but it's nice. But then again, I also know that that's only from my local park and the point of view that's small. But the last probably 3 reigns in Blackspire, at least the last 3 different monarchies, I've really been very pleased with, and I think that as a culture we are becoming more award aware, and people are getting the accolades that they rightfully deserve.
And going back to the question of, do we say, what was the exact wording? Quantifying accomplishments. Do we do a good job at it? Compared to other LARPs, we actually have quantifications for our awards, and we have awards in other organizations that just don't. So I think the fact that we have that can be a good thing if they're applied equally and across the board and fairly across the board. Otherwise, I think awards could be a detriment, but that's a whole completely different topic. But I think that we will have that discussion on the show at some point, I swear. But I think that we actually do a good job of quantifying them, but applying that quantification equally, especially throughout the years, has been difficult. But I think in our local region has gotten better, and I think will be better going forward now that we have established a baseline.
Quantification comes down to, especially when it's like members serving at a barony level above a barony level. Let me say that in a different way. Serving up their barony at a award level outside of the barony's ability to grant. A lot of that recognition and that quantification comes from the people within that barony or the witnesses to that service being willing, ready, and able to push that up the ladder, and the people with the ability to grant those awards being open to following up on that recommendation, not just taking it at face value and saying, well, no, because they always do that, or, oh, of course, yes, because I know that name, but being like, you recommended so-and-so for their 8th whatever, and you said this, that, and the other thing. Can you, as the recommender, quantify what you meant by that?
Yeah.
I think because a lot of it, we get recommendations all day long. I own the spreadsheet for the Northern Lights recommendations. I don't look at it, but I get the update notes. They come in fairly often, and then you don't see many awards getting turned around except for at coronation, and they tend to be the high-level ones. But I know from my terms as Baron or Region as IO that when they come in, they tend to go out because it's your nuclear land, and you're noticing it because it's happening on a weekend basis.
Yeah.
So I do believe that we have, like as Torg said, we've gotten a lot better at recognition and quantifying that effort that goes into earning one of our awards.
Yeah. And I think like when Torg was mentioning like as a noob, he was like orc stalking people. Like as a veteran player, I still do that. Like
Oh yeah.
every time, like even if I'm not an office, like at land level, like if our monarch is like, hey, here's our award recommendation sheet, I'm going into Inland Ocean's group and I'm looking at our active list and I'm going into each person. I'm looking at their awards that they currently have and I'm thinking about the last 6 months and I say, do I think that they've earned their next dragon? Do I think they've earned their next, I don't know, warrior, whatever? And I always try to make sure that I'm putting in some sort of award recommendation for every single person who's active at my park because everybody's doing something all the time, and it's really not fair to assume that someone has that award already. Like at kingdom level monarchy, land level monarchy, if you're not looking at people's orcs before you're giving awards, like you're doing a disservice. You really are. Like you need to go and look and not assume.
Yeah. So here's a slight topic change. So what award do you want that you don't already have, and why?
I don't want any awards. What are you talking about?
Title specifically. Sorry.
We're not in this for awards. What are you guys talking about over there?
I want my Paragon Paladin, and I only want it so that I can irritate Sir Thadagrin.
I've always wanted to have the title Esquire, just so I could say Baelnorn Esquire. But then I'd have to go to a shire, and there are no shires, and I have to be a champion. I've done champion at shire level, and I'll be willing to do it again for that title.
There you go.
No, probably Paragon Wizard.
Yeah.
See, probably. I like the Paragons. There's just it. I think Paragons, they're the meat of our game because they exemplify 90% of our rule book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Take that back, by the way. Paragon Monster is what I want.
Oh, there you go.
That's a good one. That one's so hard to get.
I love monsters. I do quest writing all the time and just everything. And people ask me monster questions just randomly on my PMs. And I'm like, now please send, and like just telepathically be like, send me Paragon Monster. Send me Paragon Monster.
Make it a thing
right now. Yeah. Um,
And
I
you
think
look at. Go ahead. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
I think for me, like, obviously, I really want to get my Paragon Assassin. I think that would be fun. But other than that, like, I'm always trying to work towards my next rose. But like, if it doesn't come, it's fine. Like, whatever. Obviously, I'm always constantly doing things for the game, so eventually it'll be there. So it's like I know it'll happen in the future, but I don't need it right now. Like, I'm not dying, so it's good.
Yeah, no, my thing is, and this might be a little self-deprecating, but if you go to a park day, I'm going to say anywhere, but I really mean in the Northern Lights because that's my petri dish. Who's doing things more often than anyone else? And it's your Paragons. Your Paragons are like, hey, do you need a sash? Hey, do you need spell strips? Hey, you're using that spell incorrectly. And they really drive our game on a week-to-week basis. The Crown Knights are important, the Sword Knights are important, your Warlords are important, but your class Masterhoods, your class Paragons, they are like that super glue for your weekly events, and I don't
Yeah.
think that we give them enough credit.
Honestly, I feel like at that
Of
point, I feel
course,
like we don't.
Nagar's here for that.
Yeah, I feel like we don't even give individual players enough credit for that. Because like, if you're willing to coach someone on the field and be like, "Hey, this spell actually works like that," like, why isn't that worth like a lower level award in a ladder system, like a smith or a fucking whatever, like a rose? Like, if you're consistently
I think we
always
just lost our
teaching players,
PG-13 rating.
if you're always consistently trying to teach players how to play the game, like, or like offer them your sashes, your strips, whatever, like, shouldn't that be a lower rose too? Like, and I feel like I never see
Absolutely.
that go out.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know. Or even just a lore title for that. Like, this person is literally serving the core of what Amtgard is, which is the role play portion, the
They're doing way
game
more than
portion.
I am
Yeah, you
on
slacker.
on any given weekend.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, like, those people should be getting more also. Like, you shouldn't just be serving in the kitchen, just doing gate, just picking up trash to earn a rose. Like, Amtgard is more than just that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So you should be playing Amtgard at Amtgard. That's what I'm hearing.
Point with Orders of the Crown, like if you're a Paragon or on the cusp of being a Paragon and you're helping someone else learn the class that you are superior at, that's a lion. That is
Yeah.
leadership outside of office.
Yeah, that could definitely be a line.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. Like, you're teaching that, like, you take a new player and you're teaching them like first to third level how to play the game or whatever. Like, that's 100%, 1,000% leadership. Like, I don't know.
10%, she says.
1,000,000%. That's leadership.
That's
Give
a
that
big
guy a
percent.
lion.
Give him an actual real lion.
No, not
The
a real
Amtgard
one.
version
It'll
of
eat
Tiger
him.
King.
So, what do you think about giving a low level title to those who qualify for them when they already have a higher level title?
Okay,
I
I
have
want to
input on this.
Yeah, you
Go
go
ahead,
first.
Gwyn. Go ahead,
No,
Gwyn.
no, you go first. You go first.
All
You
right,
go first.
so I earned my Duke before I earned my Marquis. Because as I said before, the Marquis required me to hold Monarch, Regent, and Prime Minister at Kingdom level in the Northern Lights. And I think it's awesome. I don't think it's a ladder you can skip rungs on without going back to. If I somehow run for Kingdom Regent and I do a superb job, I would welcome a count title if the populace and the incoming monarchy think that I deserve it. Just because I have Duke should not mean that I can never be a master and never be an esquire and never be a baronet or a baron. If only because that way there are Pokemon outside of my ability to obtain, and that would be horribly sad.
Exactly.
I agree.
No, I 100% agree on that. Like, I'm sorry, like, so in the Northern Lights, like, Defender is a lesser title, and I just got that even though I'm a Baroness, like, and it's legit. I love it. It's so cool to be a Defender. Like, me personally, like I said, I feel like it's a role play aspect. So if I can add every single title I get like onto a signature when I'm like making a post online or like
Oh,
signing
Lord.
off an award, like I'm gonna be putting like Lady, Baroness, Squire, Gwyn Llewellyn, Defender of the Northern Lights, like Esquire, like whatever. Like I want to add all of that. Like,
Yeah.
Well, and
give
then you
me
quickly
all the
turn
titles.
into Kai, and it takes you 20 minutes to introduce yourself to people.
That's fine. Like
I-
it's hilarious. Like, and also I feel like again, like it really shows like, wow, that person's putting in all this work because to assume makes an ass of you and me, right? Like I don't know what awards you have, but if I know you're a Grand Arch, whatever Maduke, like like I know
Marmaduke?
you've been king at least twice or whatever if you're an Archduke, so it's like at least that's something. Like that person knows something about the game. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing is if you look at my orc, I am high level in a couple ladders and mid level in the majority of the others. But because I'm a crown knight, because I'm a duke, and because I've been playing the game for 20 plus years, people just kind of be like, he's got him. We don't have to worry about it. And to an extent, it's true. Because I'm not playing this game for awards. I would love to earn a masterhood down the line for all of them.
Yeah.
But it's not the reason I'm still here at 40. Like, it's not about awards anymore. It's about making sure that the kids coming into the game have a better time than I did.
Exactly.
It's kind of like Christmas. It stops being about you. It starts being about the little kids getting the presents.
Yes.
True.
But did
But-
Brynjar earn his second rose? That's the real question.
So Brynjar asks, how do you feel about a person who takes the time to teach and mentor people? Should they be considered for a title?
Yeah, give him a lord title, man.
Title. Master. Esquire.
No one ever
Get
gets
him on
a
the map.
Yeah, I agree. It's worth considering. I don't know if I would do it, but definitely worth considering. And it looks like we may have lost Torg. Hopefully, he will be back.
My thing is on that note is equivalent titles. People need to stop handing out lord titles and whatnot and start handing out Darth titles and overlord title and whatever. Like, you know what I mean? The titles that are the same as the English variant titles. That's what I was looking for. But aren't that one, being a Hertogi myself. Because I know that as king, I handed out an overlord to Comfort, and I think it's still my favorite title I've ever granted anybody. But there are Middle Eastern variants, there are German variants, there are so many amazing titles that we need to spread out. Yet Underlord. Be careful, Unum. I might run for Kingdom Office just to give you that title. Are we talking? Is this Jarl Brynjar's resume? Is that what we're looking at right now? A year ago. Yeah, Margrave. Like, there's life outside the apartment, to quote a musical. Like, get thee hence with other cultures that we can appropriate titles from.
Can we talk about like title equivalents real quick? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like for people like the monarch, because I know like there's some kingdoms that have allowed land level monarchy to give out certain titles, but I know for like the Northern Lights it's only a kingdom thing. I feel like you should really be looking into the player that you're also giving the title to. So like if you know they're not non-binary or whatever, like try to find a title that actually fits like who they are versus like just picking the one that's out of the Kapora and hoping that it's okay. Like,
One of my non-noble titles is Town Crier of Inland Ocean.
yeah,
And I got that because I was super active at recruiting help when we were doing land versus land battles. And I made announcements online, and I garnered interest in defending Inland Ocean against Shrouding Mists and against Mithril Hills and the Hollow, and they, I think it was Baron Kelric, or no, Baron Fluric at the time. It was Fluric who got the Monarch at the time. I don't know who the Monarch at the time, to give me the title of Town Crier. And I've got
Yeah.
this cool little 8.5 by 11 hand drawn like colored pencil, and it's awesome because it's not. No one else is a Town Crier of Inland Ocean.
right.
That's just
Or of
me.
the Northern
I'm
Lights.
loud. Or of the Northern Lights. Yeah, and like Dogboy being the ambassador of the Northern Lights. Could he have earned a different thing for that? Sure. But he's the only one we have with that title.
Yeah.
So it's knowing Dogboy, it's got to be a matter of both pride and consternation. So
Right.
So we've kind of been dancing around this a little bit, but what is the importance of titles in Amtgard? Like, we talk about giving them out, but why are they important to give out?
So I feel like there was like a difference importance like a while ago where at one point if you I guess it depended on your Kingdom Corpora at this point, but like for some Corporas, if you had a title, you could start having like man-at-arms and pages. Currently with how the rules of play is worded, if it's not defined in your Corpora, like anybody can give out a man-at-arms or page. But I know like in the previous rule book, like you had to have at minimum like a lord title or whatever to take one. So I feel like that's kind of added some sort of importance to it, but not as much anymore because of that. It's just typically in the rules of play right now.
agree. Someone said in chat roleplay, and I think when roleplay occurs at events like Shattered Kingdoms and things like that, I think a lot of those players that have titles are quick. Some of us play them up, some of us play them down, some of us don't play them at all. One of the benefits, I think, and one of the things that needs to be more prevalent is the art that comes with the award.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I have received art with my Duke title, with my Marquis title, with my Sir title, with my knighthood is probably a cleaner way to say that. And each one of those scribal work, yes, thanks, Brynjar. Even if it's digital, I know that Medzek in Northern Lights creates some amazing digital art. Bug is well on her way to getting awards for simple, like she does a lot of other things, but right now, with as much as I've drank, for simply making amazing scrolls. There needs to be more, and it's a conversation I've had before. Is that when someone gets knighted, and I've witnessed a knighting in 4 kingdoms now. It is a big deal. And there are spurs, and there are belts, and there are gifts, and there's a buffet, and there's, yes, I said buffet. But when someone gets their Duke title, it's a, have at, enjoy your roleplay. And thankfully, when I got my Duke title for my term as king, I was blown away. I got this amazing scroll on the wall. I got a full wolf pelt and a standing ovation, and I was crying. Like, I had just handed out like masterhoods, or sorry, paragons. I'd handed out a baron title and some baronet titles, and then I step down and immediately get called back up, and I'm immediately in tears because of the pomp and circumstance they put back into that ceremony. And I think to an extent that should exist for the titles. Like, a lord should be a real, like, the requirements for it might be small, but the oomph we put behind granting that title should be big. And it should, the person gaining it should feel that kind of emotion and should have that reminder of the effort they put in and the recognition they got for that effort.
Yeah, you should be getting some sort of nice artwork
Thanks for
or a
coming to my
crown
TED
at
Talk.
least. Yeah.
Well,
I
like
mean, like, oh,
go ahead.
No, you go.
You're the guest.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, for me, I feel like 8th, 9th, and 10th orders of any ladder award, like, you should be getting really nice awards for those because those are really high level. And I feel like titles of any level, I also consider that same. Like, you should be getting nice awards. You shouldn't be getting napkins handed to you with your name on it, you know? You should
They
be
should be
getting
personalized for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it should be personalized. And you know, your titles, like if it's your first title, you should get some sort of circlet with it. I don't know if you get like if you're going from a really low level title to a really high level title, maybe you should get a new crown because like historically there's like different what's the like little
Peaks and symbols are
Peaks and
peaks and
pearls
symbols.
and
Yeah, like so there's different levels to crowns for different titles
you
and
need
then
like a
like
week.
yeah, and then there's
Yeah.
like you know, you should be getting something that's really nice to represent what you're doing for the game because
And it's
again,
not I keep interrupting you. It's just I don't want to forget what I want to say that I
okay,
agree
go
with
ahead, say
you,
it.
and it's something I did when I was Monarch of the Northern Lights. Is I tried like Lord titles I handed out at Park as they came up, as I felt they were necessary. And I had torques and circlets ready to go, but then again, I had a hookup for torques and circlets.
Yeah.
It's different when the kingdom is in a position when they can pay for things, or the monarch is in a position when they can pay for things and not really feel the burn of that that purchase. But those torques, they were $50-$60 a shot. Like it wasn't a small matter. But I agree with you. And it's the same with knighthood. Is getting to the point where you have artisans who are company mates or household mates or beltline mates or friends that are willing to put in the effort to make that happen at cost or at
Right.
free.
Well, I mean, the same thing should be happening for titles. So, like, if I'm making player A account and I know they're friends or in a company with all these other people, like, you know, their friends have got to be more than willing to give them something, even a belt, a necklace, like anything, you know, like even just one extra item
I
rather than
learned
that.
how to do scribal work for your award. Like,
Yeah, see, like people are willing to learn and try, and like for me, like if it's your first attempt, but it's better than what I was expecting, like I don't know, that means so much more than just getting this like pre-printed award. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree with Degar is that we can't expect people to be willing to do this for free.
No, definitely not. But we should be
And
reaching out to people, you know, and talking to them about
right,
it.
and putting a
Obviously,
monetary value on a Lord title
yeah,
sounds horrible as well. But I do, to an extent, I believe, and your mileage may vary, that there should be a level of pomp from the master title on. There should be some level. It shouldn't be a message online. Oh, and by the way, I gave so and so their master title.
no, that sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I agree with Kismet and the 30K for Lord. Yes, sounds good to me. I would like that in arrears for my Lord title, please. There needs to be the ability present. I know it's different in other organizations, like the SCA is bankrolled. They're not at the moment; they're having issues. But having the ability to say, "Hey, you're in the chat, so I'm going to use you, Brynjar. I want you to make a scroll. The land has brought parchment, and here's $30 for ink. Anything you can contribute. Thank you, but this is all we can provide because we're not in a surplus right now." Versus saying, "Hey, Gwyn, we want you to make a scroll. You have got 2 weeks. Get her done."
Yeah.
Or 3
Well, yeah.
days.
I feel like there's so many people who are willing to do stuff or to donate equipment, like, but it's more often than not I see awards being handed out where they didn't even attempt to ask people, and that's like the big thing that I'm trying to get by. Is like we need to ask, like, is anyone willing to make something? And like set like some sort of price point if we want, and like sometimes artisans will say like, no, I'll do it for free. Like so it's like if we're not asking the questions, we're never gonna get the stuff done. And I just hate when it's very obvious that people didn't try.
We continue to go back to the same individual for the same thing. Rather than trying to get, like, going to Unum for leatherwork is a no-brainer, but did you also know that 3 other people who live near here do leatherwork, right? Expanding and the thing that I've seen, to go on an alcohol-driven tangent, is that we continue to go to the same people. We continue to award those same people for the effort that we told them, for the effort they put into the work that we told them to make.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the person who's got 3 dragons for making scroll work, we're going to the person who has 7 dragons and giving them their 8 for that next project that we told them to make, rather than feeding the youth.
All good points.
Kismet is right. Those who can do it for free get tapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
I think it should be not asked of, but Mark should go to the people that were affected by the person or friends of the person to see if they want to make the scroll at cost, or maybe if we have the budget to pay them their service, because it means more coming from someone that was personally affected by the individual getting the award. And I think that's an important part of getting the award. It's just another aspect that we haven't really mentioned. But yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I feel like I grew up in a portion of Amtgard where, like, because I'm from Viridian Outlands, and I feel like there was so many times where people in my principality were getting awards from Blackspire, like way back in the day, guys, not right now, where the awards were so bad because it's very obvious they were last minute, weren't planned, that they didn't even bother to ask people, and it's like
there's no emotional investment.
Yeah, like if we're not asking, they're not going to look good, and if we're just trying to bust them out, like that's not good either. So
to be fair, that is not a side against Viridian Outlands. That was just Blackspire. Like my Master Rose is like literally someone that typed something up with a font, printed out, signed it, and handed it to me. That was my Master Rose.
That's like better than Blackthorn's Master Owl. It was literally like, I keep saying awards on a napkin, like his award was
on a napkin.
Oh shit!
Literally on a napkin. His Master Owl, you guys, was on a napkin. It was
written at event on a napkin.
That's pretty terrible.
There are, I agree with the chat. There is a level of kingdom funds, and it becomes the same trap as awards by popular people. But at an extent, do we? And I'm just spitballing now. I'm not creating precedent for nothing. I have no power here. Do we create a fund, an award fund, where this is, the monarch and the PM can spend 10% without telling anybody, or without, they've got to show record of where they spent it, but without telling them they can. And that goes towards printing awards. Does that also go towards paying for the printing of a giant scroll, paying for gouache and paint and painter's time? If the Kingdom of Northern Lights is knighting Belnorn, I was going to use someone in the chat, but I kept going towards someone in Northern Lights. I didn't want to be prophetic. Do we spend kingdom funds making his scroll, or sourcing his spurs, or building his belts? Is there some kind of return on investment for the crafter, so that they're not out of pocket for the difference? Like, I would, if Belnorn got a knighthood, I would do something for him, and it wouldn't be one of the things. It'd be a gift. But there's the things, and those are normally covered by either the squires of the person, or the monarch, or the knight of the person being knighted, or what have you.
It sounds good in principle, but it also sounds like it's ripe for abuse, because like the people that the monarchy talk to are the people that they're comfortable talking with, i.e. their friends, and then they're paying their friends money out of the kingdom, and so that's where
Mhm.
it starts becoming
dangerous. I agree.
Right.
I definitely agree.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
feel
when
like
it would
should be, like,
be more of a I will buy the paper or pay for the printing than
Yeah.
here's $500, go buy something.
Yeah,
so
that-
if you're paying for materials, that's fine, but if you're paying for like labor, that's where it starts
Right.
becoming gray.
Because then I could be like,
Yeah.
I bought a hide and I gave it to Unum. Here's the receipt for the hide.
Yes.
Whatever comes from that is on Unum to provide
Mhm.
receipts for or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would almost say, like, I love the idea of having this, like,
Sorry, Unum.
separate fund for creating awards at the kingdom level. But I think there should be, like, a cap that if you have to surpass it, it goes to an all thing vote or something, like. So I think the idea and the premise is really good, and I think there's so many ways that we can fundraise nowadays where, like, it's 100,000% possible to do it. It's just a matter of
But not a million
getting.
percent.
No.
The other thing,
million.
going back to a point that
100,000.
was made earlier about nobles teaching and this, that, and the other thing is something I've noticed, at least in the 3 local kingdoms, on a kingdom scale, not on an individual scale, your mileage may vary, is waiting for an Ithra to teach something. There is nothing says anywhere anything that I can't teach you how to cut a belt blank out of a hide today. I don't have to wait till we host an Ithra, whether it's online or in person. I can
Yeah.
teach Dagarda to sew on a random Saturday craft night. It doesn't have to be viewed by a whole bunch of people. It doesn't have to be public knowledge. Like
Mm.
we as nobles, we as older members of the group, we as people who know anything about anything, should be willing
I
to
don't know
give that
anything.
anything to the people who don't know it.
Yeah. Like, I ran a class on the Northern Lights group about how to create a digital online sign-in form. I didn't ask to do that. I just did it because I knew that, like, because there's a pandemic going on, like, people might need to know how to do that. So it's like we should just be teaching whenever we want and whatever we want. I don't know.
So
It's just something that came to mind earlier that I thought I'd touch on.
go ahead.
That was it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is probably one of the last questions for me from my list of questions. Do we put enough emphasis on titles, and if not, how do we make them feel more important?
That comes down to your crowd, like your park. Those are the people you're gonna see every single day. And if they treat you with respect and address you by your title and go about that, other people will take notice. So really how to put it, your title will only go as far as you let it. If you are telling people, no, address me by so and so, like aggressively, then no one's gonna take you seriously. But like if you talk to people and be like, hey, I think it would be really cool if you used Lord before saying my name because I really want to role play that up. Most people will be pretty receptive to that. And so how fun you are and how you regard it rather than like using it as a way to like look down to people. If you use it as a way to build yourself up rather than pushing people down, you'll get a lot more out of it.
On your topic, like on what you said, I agree with you. I was joking. When I was at Spring War 3 years ago, whatever. Dagar, correct me. What year was that? A woman who I was talking to in camp stated to me, and these are words like I will live by, is that I stand in front of my titles, not behind them. Every day I hit the park, every day I interact online, every day I talk to my squires or what have you. It's Darius before Duke. Because I stand in front of those titles, I do not hide behind them.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they're really fun for like a role play aspect. Like for me, like I remember being a brand new player and I went to my first camp out and holy shit, there was the king of Blackspire. You know, like that was the craziest thing to me was to, like meet the king, you know, like I don't know. So like for me, I feel like titles, people in monarchy, like I've always thought of this as like a huge role play aspect of the game. And I'd love to role play that up, but you have to read your crowd because there's some people like at a land level, maybe there's some people in your land who haven't taken kindly to that kind of thing and you need to integrate it slowly and um there's some people that I've heard that don't like having a high table at kingdom events for the kingdom of a monarchy um because of the pomp and circumstance, but again, I think we have to remember, like, again, we are a LARP. We're supposed to be including some sort of role play inclusion, but we have to make sure we do it correctly and um we can't abuse it. So if we're role playing, great, but there needs to be role play rules. We need to know that the role play is happening. If I'm being a jerk to someone just because they're a peasant, like that, and I'm not explaining to this new player like what's happening, like that's not right. So there needs to be very clear defined rules and people need to know that the scenario is happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I would never want to think that any noble should look down on a non-noble
No.
just because it's not nice.
Unless
But
that non-noble was short.
But like
Can all be good jokes.
I was participating in a class by a Certurarian or Archduke, no Grand Duke. He's Grand Duke, Grand Duke Terrarian, because technically the title is above knight, but people don't talk about that. But he did an etiquette class, and he talked about talking about how you or just adding a little bit of flair here and there, like saying "Your Grace" or "My Lord" or stuff like that. And I think those would just the simple little niceties would elevate the importance of the titles. I think it's more important for like court and like feast time. I think is when those should probably come out more often. But even in like role play scenarios and stuff like that, they should be taken into consideration when people are aware of it. As someone mentioned earlier, you just kind of like pull them to the side, like, well, I'm this title, could you address me thus, if you want to, and then you can roleplay them not doing it if they want to, and then apply your appropriate roleplay to how they act to you, and that can create interesting roleplay scenarios. So I think that the roleplay with titles should be a little bit more engaging than it has been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if someone wants to play a noble, they hate nobles as part of their background and stuff, like, yeah, 100% for it. Like, do it, knock yourself out, man. That's amazing. Let's have a moment then where I feel like I have to like subjugate you or something. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it just that's fun. Like, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and again, like as long as like people know that's what's happening, like I think it's cool. But
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so long as all parties involved are on the same page in the same book,
Yeah,
in the same language. It's when someone strolls into camp being their count and being like, blah, 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 and everybody else is like, what is going on? That guy's a douche. But yes, unum, safe word. There needs to be a role play safe word.
Yeah.
And it should be unum, unum, unum.
And I mean, I kind of consider like knighthood and titles the same in that aspect. Like, just because you're walking around with like a white belt and you're a Grand Duke or whatever, like that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to treat you any differently than if you're a brand new player. Like,
Well, you got to make sure that everybody's role playing.
yeah, exactly. Like, if there's role play happening and I know there's role play happening, like, cool, great. Obviously, something's going to happen and I'm going to be using different verbiage. But if we're not role playing and we're like off to the side of the field and doing our own thing, like, I'm going to treat you like a normal person. Like,
Even if
this
they're
is
not
how it
normal
is.
people.
Right.
So that was all the questions that I had set aside, and I think I've asked most, if not all, the questions in chat that were relevant. Are there any last minute questions about titles that anyone would like to bring up, or any comments that we haven't covered that they would like to comment on?
Brynjar, what do you got?
I know he's had all the questions
He's had a lot of good questions.
Having had personal conversations with Brynjar, insightful for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. I appreciate his participation in the video.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I would just like to say that I think titles are cool, but like they're not what makes the game. The physical, actual part of our game, which is where we're actually playing Amtgard, that makes the game. So, I mean,
Which goes into what Degard just said in chat, which is what is the best title and why is it Paragon?
right, exactly. Like, 90% of our game is actually played on a physical field, so, and you can't earn a count title by playing an assassin or whatever. So, like, I don't know.
Depends on how well you play that assassin. No,
Right.
and I agree. And it's a different tier of recognition. It
Yeah.
is adjacent to ladder awards, which are again adjacent to knighthood, adjacent-ish, because one leads to the other. But I believe that each one deserves its own gravitas. I believe that ladder awards deserve gravitas. I believe that the Masterhood Paragon titles deserve gravitas, but at the same time, with the majority of noble titles being service-based, office-based, I
Mhm.
think they deserve their own level of gravitas as well.
Yeah.
And even if you only see them when and if anyone ever roleplays. So if anyone, if you only see it at Shattered Kingdoms, which is an event in the Pacific Northwest Amtgard, you should come to that next time we host it.
It's
Yep.
fantastic.
Just
So
a
good.
plug.
Already had the site booked for June.
Then there you go. But yeah, I think, and it varies from monarch to monarch at the different land levels, is how much weight is put into X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
You'll see reigns at a duchy that are so heavily ANS based that the ditchers are like, why do I come to Amtgard? We're doing Ithras every day, like whatever. And on the other side of that coin, you will come to IO, and that'll be it. Toodles, Torg.
It's always
Swing
going in
back.
and out.
So yeah, and to an extent, it ebbs and flows. Like some years you'll see titles being the cream of the crop, and some years you'll see it be paragons and ladder awards. Ladder awards tend to be consistent-ish. Like they vary, but they're pretty consistent.
I remember going to like one pack war where it was like an NL Black Spire coronation, and there was just like a table filled with Paragon sashes. And I've never seen so many Paragon Paragon.
Everyone was like, "This is going to be a really long court."
It really was. Oh my god, it was the longest court I've ever been a part of. It was like hours long.
I was once in a court during like my second or third pack war that went until like it's the click attack pack war. It went to like
we don't
2 in
talk
the
about
morning.
click attack pack war. We don't talk about it.
It was happening at like midnight because oh man, that one was real.
Yeah, it went
rough.
till like 1 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, it went to 1 in the morning.
long.
It's horrible.
I was not there for that.
I think Silverlock was like Monarch or something.
Oh, I was out. I was out.
Or the Autocrat, one of the two, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Oh man, that was so long. That one was terrible.
We were all sitting on hay bales too. Like, oh man, it was awful.
No.
Right. No, with what Brynjar said, so there was a 12th night, and I'm going to toot my own horn for well, not even my own horn, someone else's horn. I was the monarch of the Northern Lights at the time, and
The
really
king
good
of
friend.
Amtgard.
The king of Amtgard. Really good friends with Sir Dogboy, who was gaining his knighthood in the SDA. And because we were his background and what led him to XYZ whatever, they were basically like, you should come, this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come. I'll be part of the ceremony. That'll be cool. And they're like, I get there. They're like, no, you're going to sit court. I was like, am I going to what? No, I was going to come up for the knighting, help, and get out of Dodge. No, be in the line of progression at the very beginning. Walk in. We're gonna teach you like a visiting monarch. You're gonna sit with us. I was at like the freaking left hand of the queen, basically. I had one monarch in between me, and stay for the whole thing. I
Was
did
it
have a retinue. I had Sir Kelric. I had at the time Baron Floric. I had Guinevere. I had a retinue. I was good to go. 16 hours of sitting in a wooden chair,
Oh wow.
drinking mead. I mean, I was drinking, but my butt was numb. So
bet
we
you were on
can't. I mean,
fire
we
when,
honestly can't complain. But holy
No.
crap!
Man, I would have left. I would have left. Like I give you so much props. I would have been like, "Do you guys
They
were 5 hours
gave
in?"
me the option to leave in the middle. They broke for recess and like, you don't have to come back. What you were here for is over. And I was like, oh, coming back. But I didn't make it through the whole thing.
I'm the king of Amtgard, though.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. All weekend long, I'm the king of Amtgard. It's like, "No, I'm not. I'm the king of one solitary kingdom within the sphere of Amtgard."
The king of Amtgard.
But it was awesome. Like the atmosphere in court was amazing. The chairs, the drinking vessels, the respect paid to the crown, all of the intricate little pieces, the heralds, the heraldry. It was gorgeous. Like it was a LARPer's dream. I'll leave out any other words.
Honestly, like that's one thing that I give props to the SCA. Like they say they're not a LARP, but the amount of like LARP-esque type stuff they do towards like the crown, I wish that's something that Amtgard would, at least in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know how well they do it in other kingdoms because I have to travel outside the PNW, but like I wish that was something that we actually did here because it's like, oh wow, like I'm the king of the Northern Lights and like nobody cares, you know, like. But
Different.
like,
The way their offices are set up is different. The
Yeah.
terms are different. Like their land level officers serve years in office.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I went to one event and there's an empty chair and people are required to bow as they're
Bow to
passing
it.
it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that's
You're
roleplay to
paying
me.
reverence to that crown or what have you. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's roleplay. Like that's intense to me. Like, and we don't do anything like that
And
here.
you'll see members of Brynjar does it at Amtgard events, and I know that I attempt to do it at Amtgard events. Is I will Your Grace, I will nod if it's a higher title than mine, or I will, but yeah, no, for sure, it's not necessarily a global thing, kingdom to kingdom. It's not even a global thing, land to land. But Brynjar is right. They do LARP more than a lot of people because they're live action and they're role playing. Like no matter what any member of the SCA says.
Oh yeah, I give Dogboy so much crap. He's like, no, they say it's not a LARP. I'm like, buddy, I went to one event
by the
and
definition.
I experienced more in-game stuff than I've ever experienced in Amtgard. Like Amtgard is not a LARP in comparison to the SCA.
Like growing older in the game, it's something that I think I have more fun doing. Is just playing a part at an event. It's not necessarily battle gaming, which I'm doing, was doing more of before the plague. Is interacting with members as Darius instead of Chris in funny clothes. And not to a matter of like I can subjugate people because I'm a duke, but in a matter of like just living the weekend as someone else.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the release in the SCA is that I'm sleeping in a tent that's like canvas and crazy. I'm dressed in really crazy dress and whatnot, and I'm someone else for the weekend.
Yeah.
I'll be next weekend.
So I'm gonna call us an end to the first episode of Ducal Drinks. I appreciate all of you that joined us for watching. We have Darius. There we go. I can't do the backwards. Gwen and Torg as our guests. The next episode will be in a month. It will be on Masterhoods. I don't know our guest yet, but I hope to see all of you there. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Baelnorn. So fun to be here.
Thank you.